This e-bike has something called magic suspension with 6 freaking shock absorbers. Seems absolutely outrageous. I've never seen anything quite like this. It is also IP65 rated and the price is $1,499 and the link below this video for the larger battery pack of the G-Force RS ST. There are some other options available down there if you want to get that price down a little bit. Seems like a quite interesting electric bike in a sea of stuff that's basically all the same. This one actually stands out. So let's crack it open and review it. We are rolling on 20x4 knobby tires. The brand is I don't know. I haven't seen this one before. And the brakes are 180mm rotors. And the thickness on these ones are a little bit thicker than typical. 2.3mm to be specific. Basically allows them to absorb a little bit more heat, making them more effective. We just gotta see this suspension. So this is the first time I've seen this. 2 in the back, 1 in the front. This is something they call magic suspension, which is a coil over shock back here, as well as an additional shock right here. And then obviously front suspension as well. So the rear rack is built into the swing arm here. And looking at how the suspension is set up, it appears that, you know, if there was a passenger back here, whatever's on the back is gonna benefit from this suspension right here. And then whoever's driving the bike is gonna benefit from both of the suspensions. Really curious to see how this is gonna work in the real world. And the bike I have has a 160mm rotor on the back, and we can see they are hydraulic brakes. There is no branding on the caliper. The rear geared hub motor is branded G-Force. Take a look at the numbers. It is a 48 volt geared hub motor, 750 watts nominal, 1300 watts peak, 85 newton meters of torque. And I decided to go with the ST variation because it makes it easier to get on and off, and it does have this extra reinforcement bar here on the ST, giving it more frame rigidity. They do have the high step one though if you want, you know, that. And there are 2 battery variations. I decided to go with the larger one. Obviously more range, the on-off switch there. But if you don't want the extra weight, extra price, and extra range, you can get the smaller battery. Looking for the keys here, don't see it. Looks like there is a quick release lever for the front wheel. You can put the derailleur guard on your own if you want it. Oh, there they go. Keys. Battery is semi-frame integrated. Definitely got some weight. So the bigger battery is a 48 volt, 25,000 milliamp hour, 1200 watt hours of energy, 25 amp hour. There's the numbers for you. G-Force. The charger they give us is a 3 amp charger, so a 25 amp hour battery pack charged from empty to full would take about 8 hours. And we'll get a quick little weigh in on this battery. It says 12.8 pounds. So if you do want to reduce that weight a little bit, you could go for the smaller one. I definitely go for the bigger one personally. And I'll get you a weigh in on the whole bike here shortly. Here's the seat that comes on the bike. It's wide, soft, should go well with the magic suspension. Does have a quick release lever for easy adjustments. Little reflector on the back. And you also have this light on the rear. Front suspension has 80mm of travel. And to my surprise, a basic lock and unlock adjustment with all of the emphasis on suspension. Thought they might give us some micro clicks there. Big rise on the handlebars. Front wheel drops right on there. And it secures on down with a quick release. If the e-bike you have now has one of these, you do want to check and make sure that is tight every now and then. And let's take a look at the cockpit here. So we get these ergonomic, rubbery, plasticky grips, controls to operate everything, the M5 display, 7-speed Shimano shifter. We'll try the horn in a minute, as well as the quarter twist throttle. Brake levers are hydraulic, no brand listed on those. Hand grips are not bolted down, so they might rotate on you a little bit unless you put something sticky on the inside of them. Comes with these metal pedals. Tires call for 20 psi. This thing is awesome. If you want one, I have a link to it below. It's got plastic fenders and a light up front. And before we turn it on, let's weigh it. I weigh 201. And when I picked this bike up without the battery on it, it weighs in at basically 271. So right at about 70 pounds with no battery. Add about 12.8 onto that with the battery. So about 83 pounds for everything. Pop that on. It does appear there is a little bit of wiggle room with that battery. We're gonna turn that display on in just a moment, but I'm just dying to feel out this suspension. Let's just see what it's like. Oh wow, yeah, actually feels good. Unconventional, but it actually feels good. Is it magical? I don't know. I'm not sure. I'm not sure yet. We're undecided. Get a slightly different angle. Look at it. Yeah, they might be onto something here, G-Force. You guys might be onto something. Definitely interesting. Feels pretty good. And before we power it on, let me just show you what I look like on it. So this one does have a step-through frame, making it easy to get on. Shorter wheels, making it easier to get on, not so high off the ground as compared to like a 26-inch wheel. My height is still 6'5". My inseam is still 34. Seat is on maximum height right now, and here's what my pedal stroke would look like. Need to get those gears shifted, but here's the approximate size of this bike. So probably designed for a shorter individual. As you can see, I'm not getting, you know, like a full length pedal stroke. You could always throw a higher seat post on there if you really want, but we'll go ahead and drop it down to minimum height now. And I don't know if this is designed for 2 people or not. I didn't see any pictures on the website with like a seat pad back here and pegs or anything, but it definitely looks like you could accommodate a passenger. So on minimum height, here's kind of just what I'm looking like on this thing. Do you guys want me to start asking shorter people to hop on these bikes while I'm on a bike ride? Give you an idea, you know, different size height people. Let me know down there in those comments. And as mentioned before, there are 7 cogs on the rear cassette for your gearing, Shimano tourney, derailleur, and on the front of the drivetrain, you do get a double wall guard to help keep that chain on there in case you're getting crazy out there. So let's go ahead and fire up the M5 display. It is a basic display, no color, but you do get a nice, easy to read readout backlight. Your battery life is up here in terms of bars, speed, pedal assist, which typically goes from 0 on up to 5. Odometer, miles, and we can tab this M button here. You also get your trip, voltage of the battery. So 48 volt battery charge to max is 54.6. We're sitting at about, well, that's not quite accurate, but we gotta top it off, and then you can tab on over. See the current output of the motor. So your power is basically the current of the controller times the voltage of the battery. Comes out to your wattage output. They don't tell you watts directly, but you can deduce that from that information. So let's go ahead and see what kind of G-forces we get out of the G-force. Full throttle, pedal assist 5. Motor sounds pretty quiet. Yeah, pretty silent. No, not silent, but when there is no load on the motor, you can see it doesn't take much current or power to get it spinning up to whatever the max speed is. Theoretically, we can hit 28 mphs on this thing. Not sure if we can get into the advanced settings and modify that or not, but if so, it is a cryptic menu. One last matter of business here before we get out and play. Holding that light will turn on your headlight, which is pointed at the ceiling right now. Shining over there on the G-force, that's your approximate lumens there. I'd say kind of middle of the road, nothing special really. However, on the rear, this taillight is actually very bright. Oh, it's not bolted down all the way. I gotta bolt that down more. When I grab the brake lever, it lights up a little bit brighter. If I turn off the light by holding down that up button, grab the brake lever, it lights up, so you get, yeah, you know. Also, you do get 4 mounting points up here on the front for a front rack. So I think you know what time it is. All right, dudes, let's check out the G-Force RSST. Try this magic suspension out and also check the official range on this battery. Of course, we're gonna check out all the important metrics, including, you know, acceleration, hill climbing ability, sand riding, top speed, and to touch on that IP65 rating just a bit here before we get out there. I always forget about this because it never rains here. This thing is fairly waterproof. According to the IP65 rating, that means it can withstand dust. I would sure hope it can withstand dust, as well as water jets. So water jets are stronger than rain, right? And we have this thing topped off on a full charge, 54.6 volts. So let's get on out of here. Ignore that box right there. Well, you don't have to. That's for my other channel, Juice to Joyride, a high power 72 volt electric scooter coming soon. And before we kick this ride off, let's go ahead and try out these lights here in the little tunnel. And it actually looks pretty bright in here. Definitely, they'll be good for riding at night. And now we're gonna give it a rip up the 20% grade. I weigh 200 pounds. We'll do throttle only, pedal assist 5. You see the current output here. Let's see how it does. Generally, the 20-inch wheels do a little bit better. So it's not giving us full power right away. I can see that, like it's dropping our current power, our current there. Ooh, I don't know why it didn't give full power. So this one might be just a little bit more user-friendly compared to some bikes. Like, you know, if it gives you too much power too fast, it can be kind of jolting. So we're gonna give it a run out here from just a little bit further back so we can allow that current to build up to the max. It should be somewhere between 20 and 25 amps. Let's see. So it's giving us 10, 15, 16. I don't know why it's not giving like full power. Maybe we need to pedal a little bit. All right, we're gonna give it a little pedal assistance. I have it on gear 1, pedal assist 5, and let's just get rolling here. And I'm gonna pedal. So still giving 14, 13 amps of current. This motor should be able to do more than that, but it might have something built into it where it reduces your current at slower speeds, because if you do push your motor like really hard going slow, you could burn your motor up. So maybe like, you know, longevity, durability is like the point of the controller on this motor rather than like peak power for acceleration and stuff. I don't really know. I'm just showing you guys what the bike does. Let's just go ahead and give it like full throttle from a stop here and see how much current it gives us. After this guy blows the stop sign, ready, go. So 8 amps, 10 amps, 13, 16. As we're getting faster, now it's giving 20, 21, 22. So it gives you access to all the current once you get up to speed. So essentially, first impressions on this bike, this thing is like basically tuned to be kind of gentle on the throttle, give you like a smooth riding experience rather than like, you know, like a sports car peak power and, you know, crazy acceleration, like maybe like that new Nissan. Is that the Nissan Z? Looking sweet. Other first observations on this bike, is kind of like a relatively smaller bike. And that magic suspension actually feels excellent. I was a little skeptical, you know, having 2 shocks on the rear. I've never seen that, or I should say 4 shocks on the rear, 2 on each side on the rear. I was a little skeptical. However, I will say, this is a very nice riding bike, I guess you could say. And let's feel out how the pedal assist systems work. So let's crank it on down to, well, let's throw it on 0. Obviously, you're not gonna get any power on pedaling or throttle when it's on 0. So you can just ride this thing like a normal bike if you want to. If it runs out of battery, you'll be fine. It is a cadence sensor, so pedal assist 1 will bring you up to right around 8 miles an hour there. And then let's try pedal assist 2 here. So it cuts you off, basically no more current, which is basically, you know, how much amps is sending to the motor. So pedal assist 2, boom, kicks on immediately. 17 amps of current there, brings you up to 12 pretty rapido. And we'll go ahead and try 3, and that gives you 20 amps of current. And we're in gear number 5 now. We'll put it on 6, 7, and even with the seat on max height, I can tell, you know, right away the pedal stroke is just really not optimal for somebody who's really tall on this e-bike. So if pedaling and getting the full extension of your leg is important to you and you're tall, this probably isn't the number 1 option for you, because even if you put a larger seat on it, oh, this dude's going backwards. All right. Even if you put like a taller seat on it, it might, you know, it's gonna, the handlebars are only so high on this. So I'm not sure exactly what the, you know, user height recommendations are on this bike, but I would definitely put this one at, you know, a relatively shorter height would be optimal on this bike. So cruising at 15, pedal assist 3 feels natural, comfortable. Cruising at 7 amps of current, should get some pretty good range just riding like this. Well, let's dial it up 1 more here to pedal assist 4, now showing 22 amps of current and bringing us up to, now we're cooking a little bit. It feels pretty fast. 24. Brakes are interesting. They do have the 180 millimeter hydraulic rotor on the front and then 160 on the rear on the bike I received. So if you are going to do a staggered set like that, it is ideal to have the bigger rotor on front. That's where about 70-80% of your stopping power is on the front tire, and they are like a thicker rotor. We'll give them a real test here after we bed them in here a little bit. And let's see how this throttle works. So I'm going to dial it down to 1, give it full throttle here. So you get access to all the power of the throttle, whether it's on 1, 2, 3, whatever. You can go up to full speed. Sometimes pedal assist 1 will give you the same speed for pedaling or throttle. This one's not set up that way. I guess there's pros and cons to both. I don't mind this setup at all. I kind of like it. But if you are going like, you know, 15 and start pedaling, it's not going to give you any power. Let's go ahead and pop off here and here, try this magic suspension out. Yeah, this magic suspension is magical. Let's say that. Like, it feels, I don't really feel much of what's going on. Like, a lot of times the suspension on e-bikes is really not the greatest. Yeah, this is pretty good, man. Like, sometimes, like, when they are really soft and you can feel nothing, it'll be like so soft, it'll be bottoming out. So I get the feeling that this suspension isn't gonna bottom out quite as easily, having, I don't know, 2 shocks on there. I'm not like a suspension engineer by any means, but it feels nice. I would say you're definitely adding a little bit of extra weight by having 2 shocks on there rather than just a single set. So let's see what we can do on throttle only here. A little bit of downhill, getting out here in traffic. Oh yeah, that bump felt perfectly smooth. And throttle on the downhill, we can get up to, into a headwind here, 26, 27, yeah, 27. A little bit of road work ahead, better swerve on around. Oh no, there's a car coming up pretty fast behind me here. We'll give that magic suspension a little bit more of a test here. Oh yeah, not bad at all, man. I do have these tires inflated all the way to 20 PSI too, so one little trick with suspension is, like, if you have bad suspension, you can reduce the pressure in your tire, but that's gonna, you know, reduce your range. You're gonna get less fuel efficiency. IP65, is it IP65 rated? So puddles should be of no concern whatsoever, and we have the fenders on there. Also running electric, so gas stations are of no concern. $4.99 for the cheap stuff here today. So I was just thinking, what better place to test the suspension here in a busy parking lot with some speed bumps to see how magical it really is. So I'm just gonna kind of whip on by here at about 10, see how this does. Oh yeah, that's actually pretty solid, better than I was expecting. All right, we're gonna try about 20 here. And of course, somebody's rolling up to leave here, so that'll be that. Horns, oh my goodness. All right. These people are angry. This guy's not gonna make this turn. I am filming here. Yeah, not too bad actually. Like, that's pretty solid. Let's just hit a few more speed bumps here. Why not? So cruising about 12. Definitely upsets the handling a little bit, so I gotta be careful there, but rear suspension's feeling good. A lot of other e-bikes out here cruising on this beautiful day in SoCal. As you can see, this isn't really set up for acceleration like maybe an electric motorcycle, but let's give it a 0 to 20. Ready, go. So it just kind of eases on that current, 10, 12 amps, 15. We're not even at full power yet. I'm gonna have to let off here. Why did I decide to go back there? Let's give this another run here. Ready, go. So it kind of definitely eases on the power, makes it for a gentle, easy, pleasant riding experience. I'm not pedaling, and we're 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20. So there's your 0 to 20 time. Not a thrilling launch, but very gentle ramp up in power, so smooth. Oh, here's our opportunity to do a little bit of a IPX rating test on this. What do you think? Give it a little swishy splash through. Well, hopefully it holds up because we are only halfway through this review. IP65 is what it is, so should be able to do water jets. And yeah, we're still rolling, so. And pretty much this e-bike is gonna top out at 28. I'll go ahead and show you exactly what it does. Looks like that thing up there is topping out a little quicker than 28, but we are at 17, 18, 19, and on throttle only, this thing will take you beyond 20, which is a little bit beyond what class 3 technically should allow you to do. I have no problem with it. 26 miles an hour. Speedometer does appear to be accurate. This is my GPS readout, and 28 on the onboard. It is still giving us, well, it starts reducing the current right at 28. So it's basically electronically limited to 28 miles an hour, and we are seeing that on the dash. Come on, little bike, we gotta make this light. We gotta make it, 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 we gotta make it. We entered the intersection, it was so yellow. That's the rule, right? Right? Based on what we've seen so far, I don't have high hopes for this thing performing on the sand, but we'll give it a try. This thing is rotating on me a little bit, which is slightly annoying. You could use some like hairspray or something to hold it in place if it rotates on you. Same for this grip. They're just not bolted down, so they're gonna rotate unless you stick them in place. But they are ergonomic grips, so they are nice to relax your hands on, especially when you got some nice gloves. Looks like we might have a little breakdown here, something. Holy smokes, this dude on the reverse trike is cooking. So is she. It's a high speed, high energy kind of day out here, man. It must be like all the sunlight, the energy, man. It's just a beautiful day here in SoCal. My goodness, dude. What is this pile of trash doing over here? Somebody, well, here's a tricycle. Is that electric? So I can pretty much guarantee you this thing's not gonna make it up this hill, but we're gonna give it a run out and just try it. Try the suspension and stuff. Yeah. It was smooth going up there though. Felt basically nothing, and right here is typically where the ride gets like really harsh riding over this stuff, so let me just feel this out. Yeah, this is definitely one of the better performing suspensions for riding over that stuff. In terms of comfort, another observation with this bike, it is actually very quiet. Like the tires are quiet, which is not, you know, necessarily typical for fat tire e-bikes. Some of them, like the Chow Yang ones, are a little bit louder. Some are quieter, like the CST BFTs are quieter. I've been rolling around on these ones a little bit now, and they're quiet, and the hub drive motor is also quiet. So if you're looking for something that's smooth and quiet, this could be an option. Riding this thing off-road, I'd have to say, you know, feels about in the top, definitely top 20% of full suspension e-bikes, you know, riding like this. Definitely popping off the seat there a little bit. And let's see how that suspension feels riding on the boardwalk here. Yeah, you can hear my voice. It's, you know, not having that bumpy sound. And in the sand, yeah, pretty much as expected. This is not a sand bike. Not while you're sitting on it anyway. You can kind of hop off, use that throttle if you need to, you know, get out for a little beach day or something. And following up on my previous video of the electric tricycle, this note is still here. So apparently, dude did not ever see it, or maybe that bike was actually not being stolen, and maybe it actually did belong to the guy who was cutting the lock on it. I don't know. Maybe we will never know. You know, I don't think I tried the horn yet. Let's see what it sounds like. There you have it. To comment on the power delivery a little bit more on this bike, like for example, I'm going 16. If you give it full throttle now, it'll give you 22 amps of current. Oh, you're good. Well, brake test there. We'll do an official brake test here in a few, but if you're already cruising at like a, you know, 10 miles an hour or so, then give it full throttle, boom, you can see 22 amps of current. It's just when you take off from a slower speed, it doesn't give you full power right away. So we'll see how it does on the California Incline right up here. And just in case you've never seen a Tail Happy TV video, the California Incline is at the top of that 85-foot cliff, so we're about to climb a decent climb. But this hill is not as steep as the 20% grade we did earlier. This one is only 12% grade. So here's where we will enter and go up this spiral. Let's do throttle only. This thing handles pretty well considering it only has the 20-inch wheels. Typically they're a little more nimble. Now in terms of the power delivery, it is giving us 14 amps, 13 amps, 12 amps of current. I'm not pedaling this thing at all. So as that speed begins to go down, it reduces your amount of current to the motor, and that is likely to preserve the motor from overheating and burning up. For example, if you try to climb, you know, if it's giving it 22 amps of current right here, it'd be really just forcing that motor to work really hard, and it's harder on the motor, harder on the battery, harder on everything. And we'll try the brakes at the bottom of the California Incline, but for the main 12% grade, let's go ahead, throw this thing against the wall, give it full power here. It's giving 10 amps of current, 11 amps of current, not pedaling, 13 amps, 14 amps, 15 amps, not pedaling, 16 amps, 17 amps. So as the speed begins to climb, we can see it is giving more power. And once we're up to about 11 or 12 miles an hour, it'll give the full 22 amps of current. So I think at this point, we're gonna be able to overcome the 12% California grade, and we are pulling 16 miles an hour. 22 amps of current is the peak power output of this controller. So pretty much the voltage of the battery times the current is your power in watts, and we are hitting 17.5 miles an hour on the California grade. Not pedaling at all. I weigh 200 pounds. So as mentioned earlier, we do have a 180 millimeter brake rotor on the front, 160 on the rear. We are electronically limited to 28 miles an hour. Most of your stopping force is gonna be on that front brake. So we're gonna go ahead, give them a pull here and see how they, oh yeah, these brakes are actually really great. So good thing they work before we got to the concrete wall. The levers here aren't really my favorite. They're kind of like just a little bit pointy, but you know, they're fine. I'm just being nitpicky. I review a lot of e-bikes. These levers, they feel nice. They feel very linear in their power delivery, but they're just a little pointy on the fingers. So they are hydraulic brakes. They feel really nice, very powerful. It's great that they do have the 180 millimeter brake on front. I would say be careful not to pull that front lever too hard, send yourself over the handlebars. And then 160 is definitely plenty enough to lock up that rear tire. And real quick side note, you might be able to get into this M5 display and modify that slow start where it gives you the reduced current from a slow start. You might be able to dial it up if you want to risk burning up your motor or pushing your motor harder than they want to. I'm not exactly sure, but it is the M5 display, which is pretty common, and you can find all the settings for that online. And we'll do a little quick brake test here from about 20 miles an hour. Give them a pretty good pull there. Yeah. plenty of good stuff power on this bike. I'm doing a review on it right now. If you want to sit on it and see how you feel on it, you're welcome to.
I want to buy me one. What place did you find it? Can you write it for me, please?
Sure, yeah. All right, dudes, we're about to head on home, check the final range. We're sitting at 50.7 volts right now. We'll be home in just a flash, but let me leave you with my final thoughts along the way. So the list price of this bike is right around 1,500 bucks in the link below this video. If you do decide this is the one for you, if you buy through that link, it'll give you the best price on this e-bike and also help support my reviews on Tailhappy TV. And of course, I greatly appreciate your support. Let's talk about the pros and cons on this thing. So if you're looking for like a thrilling accelerating bike, this probably isn't your number one option, but it does offer a very smooth, comfortable riding experience. So you don't really have to worry about like the jarring accelerations of some of the faster bikes that really you know, just hammer that power on. If you need a bike that's gonna be used specifically for climbing super steep hills, again, this probably isn't gonna be your number one option, but this bike is pretty darn fast. We saw it get up to 28 miles an hour on throttle only. Motor is quiet. The tires, I guess they make a little bit of noise, but not too bad at all for knobby tread. And then obviously, you know, the most significant thing about this bike is that rear suspension, the 4 shocks on the back, quite interesting. And to my surprise, it actually does work very well. It's really insulating me from like all the imperfections and stuff in the road, the bumps, like feels nice. You can buy this bike in a couple different configurations, including step through or high step. Personally, I'd go step through because it does have the double bar on there and makes it just easier to get on and off the bike being step through. And then obviously 2 battery options as well. The 25 amp hour, which is on this bike, you're gonna get more range and you're gonna be able to hold higher speeds for longer. It does weigh a little bit more and cost a little bit more, but you know, I'd probably go for the bigger battery option personally. But if you do want to keep the weight down, the price down, you can go for the smaller battery. All around pretty solid bike. I mean, this thing rides nice. Really don't see anything wrong with it. Unless you're a tall person and you want a bike for pedaling, this bike I would definitely say is not suitable for somebody 6'5". Not sure on the exact height recommendations, but this is on the smaller side of e-bikes for sure. All around pretty solid bike. Cons, I guess, you know, if you're looking for the thrilling riding experience, this kind of gives you more of smooth and steady, approachable e-bike territory. In my opinion, price on this one is not bad. So let's head on home, check the final range. Wasn't sure what that dude was gonna do, but we're gonna head on home. All right, dude, just finishing up this route. Hour 35 minutes ride time, 11.5 miles an hour on the average speed. Almost 18.5 miles now, and we are showing, the bars are saying full, which is not true. Voltage is reading 49.6, so that's, you know, probably a little bit over half left on the battery. So for the price, I think this one's actually a decent value if this is the kind of e-bike you're looking for. However, if this is not the kind of electric bike you're looking for, you might want to watch this video up here on the screen, because whatever it is, YouTube is recommending it to you, and I trust the algorithm. In the algorithm we trust, watch this video on the screen if you don't want to buy this one. And if you do want to buy this bike, don't forget, use my link down below the video in the description box. That'll give you the best price on it and also help support my reviews on Tailhappy TV. And of course, I greatly appreciate your support.